Hi everyone, welcome along to Improve Your SEO for Free. I'll just do some introductions first. My name's Josh Whiten from Webscape Marketing. We're a digital marketing and SEO agency in Folkestone Kent, and we're also one of the supporters of the Digital Kent conference, which is taking place next week. So as a warm-up to the conference, a week today on Thursday, I'm presenting this webinar on ideas for improving your SEO for free. First off, it would be useful just to gauge your levels of knowledge for SEO, and to do that I'm going to attempt to launch a poll that you can all answer, which should be appearing on your screens now. If you could all just fill that in, that would be really useful. Okay. Okay, excellent. That's almost everyone filled it in. If you can't see the results, then the level of knowledge around nearly 70% at novice level, 27% intermediate, and just a couple of you at advanced level. So that's great. I'll just go back to sharing the presentation. Okay, so also just so you know, you can type any questions in the question box as we go along. I won't answer them as we go, but they'll all be recorded, and then at the end I'll make some time. There'll be 5 to 10 minutes just to answer the questions. So let's get started. The first area I want to cover is really what do we mean by SEO. And for those of you who may not already have figured this out, SEO stands for Search Engine Optimisation. Now we always say that SEO is a bit of an art and a science of making your website appear in Google search results, ideally on page 1. That's where everyone wants to be. Very few people look beyond page 1 to the deeper pages of search results. Another important thing to be aware of is that SEO has changed hugely over the last year or so. Changed more than it ever has. Old techniques which used to work really well have stopped working, and if you use them now, you could even end up getting penalized by Google possibly. Another thing to be aware of is, and it's linked with the change in techniques which work or not, is that basically Google is making it harder and harder to succeed in SEO. Personally, I think it's a bit of an effort to push us all towards spending money to buy our traffic using Google AdWords, possibly. But we've seen a number of measures, including some just in the last week or so, where Google has changed its kind of guidelines and removed some tools which were widely used by the SEO industry. So how can we realistically fight back? Well, today I'm going to give you some practical techniques you can use to really boost your rankings and search engine results. They're things that the main thing to remember is everything I'm going to share with you today is completely free of charge to do. So the only cost to you is your time. So let's look at the first one, our sort of tip number 1. The first one is to really, before you do any SEO, to get your website right. Don't attempt to do any SEO work unless you've got really a great website. It will be completely wasted time and effort for a number of reasons. Google can spot if a website isn't good, and obviously you will be attracting new visitors in, new users to your website, and they're going to leave and not going to do what you want them to do if your website isn't good either. In fact, we've learned the hard way not even really to take on any client SEO projects until we're completely satisfied that the website is spot on. So what do I mean by a great website? I'm talking about unique content, well-written content, enough content, and properly targeted content. So you can kind of see there is a bit of a theme developing here, a common connection between all of these, which is content, of course. Overall, we refer to achieving depth and breadth of content in your website. And by that we mean you need to have a large enough amount of content across a number of different pages. And when you do have a page of content, you need to go to sufficient depth on that subject, or whatever your subject might be that you want your website to talk about. Another way to describe it is possibly rich content, and you may see references to that online. And rich well written and references other sources, even if that means linking off to other sources and other websites, such as articles or news stories, to back up what you're saying on your website as well. Now, of course, content isn't just words. By great content, we could be talking about video, infographics, and even images. And images are really important in this day and age where you've got a lot of opportunities and social media networks, things like Instagram and Pinterest, which are really focused on social picture sharing. So it's really important to have great images on your website. Maybe invest in getting your own photos produced, or try doing them yourself if you've got the right level of skills, but image sharing is a really good opportunity. So in short, our first tip to sort of finish off is, if you can spend time making a great website, it will give it real SEO value, because Google will see that you've got unique content, and Google can tell if content is well written or not, believe it or not. With all of their investment in artificial intelligence for self-driving cars, I think they can figure out if a page of content actually makes sense or not. Also, if you do get great content sorted out, it's more likely to get shared on social media and on other websites as well, which will get you more links to help with your SEO. And best of all, spending time on your content is completely free. You know, it's not something that you necessarily have to fork out a lot of money to try and do. So that covers our first tip. Moving on to tip number 2, which is to get social. Now, I know everyone talks at the moment about how important social media is, and everyone goes on about how you should use it, and to be honest, sometimes it can almost start to sound like the digital marketing sector is just nagging everyone to be on social media. Now, it is really important for lots of reasons, but today I'm just purely looking at social media and looking at it quite clinically to say that it's important to help you improve your SEO. Really, really important. And that's because of something that's happened over the last year or so called social signals. And social signals are what Google looks for now to see signs of how often your website is getting shared, liked or followed on social media. And they're using this as evidence of popularity for your website, and they're using it as credible evidence because Google thinks that if real people on social media are willing to share, like and follow your website and your social media profiles, then you must be a legitimate business, then you must be doing something right. So therefore that counts a lot in Google's eyes in terms of whether it should rank you at the top in search results or not. Now, obviously, using social media for your business is free of charge in almost all cases, so you really need to make sure you've got your profile set up and filled in, because I think we're all guilty of creating profiles across various networks and then never quite completing them, on all the main and relevant social channels. Now that includes Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Google+. I'm not suggesting you do all of them, because, for example, in a B2B sector, Facebook might not be that relevant for you. But you should do the ones which you feel are relevant. Then start following relevant contacts, get followers back, share content on your chosen subject, and start building your social presence. But obviously there'll be lots more about using social media at the Digital Kent conference next week. So I'm not going to go into huge detail on how to use social media today, but just you need to be aware that for SEO purposes, if you want your website to rank better in search results, then you really do need to be doing social media. Okay, so that takes us on to our third tip, and this overlaps with the previous point actually. And this is something that's a lot more topical. This is something we're seeing evidence of right now, and it's Google authorship. It is a little bit more technical, so again, I'm not going to be able to go into huge detail here, but it's maybe something that you can go and research a bit further, but it is something you should look into. So basically, with Google authorship, there's a way that you can use Google Plus and a profile on Google Plus to boost your SEO performance of your website. Why does this work? Because obviously Google owns Google Plus as well as its own search engine, and so it's going to favor people who are active on Google Plus. So what Google authorship refers to is, as well as the usual, you create your through a very clever trick that you can use to squeeze extra SEO value from your Google Plus profile, which is this authorship idea. It's a little bit complex to do, and we even have to spend quite a bit of time on it sometimes, setting it up for our clients, but it's completely free to do. As I say, it's probably a bit too detailed to go into here because we could spend all day trying to demonstrate how to do it, but basically there's two things you can do. You can link your Google Plus business page officially with your website, so the two are actually verified that they are connected. And as well as that, you can link your Google Plus personal profile with perhaps your blog content in your website, and tell Google that you are the official author of that content, and here is the link to your Google Plus profile. So why would you bother doing that? Well, what we found and what we think is going to happen is over time Google is going to favor websites which have bothered to link up the website with their Google Plus profiles. So that covers the business pages, but also if you do the personal Google Plus profile verification, then some interesting things start to happen like this. So hopefully you can all see here, this is a snapshot of some search results, and it's for the search term Kent Digital Marketing Conference. This would also work, if you want to try this afterwards as well, on Kent Marketing Conference, an even broader search term. So what's happened here is you can see that mugshot there of yours truly, second on search results. And what I've done is I had written a blog post on our official blog, on our website, saying that the Digital in Kent Marketing Conference details have been announced for the event that's happening next week. Because we've done the verification, so I've told Google that I wrote that particular blog post and I've verified that this is my profile on Google+. Google gives that blog post more credibility than the other people on the search results, and I can't go through all of them here because it's a screenshot, but kentonline.co.uk, which I think is the KM's website, it thinks you know, my little old blog post there only comes second after the main official website. So that's a really interesting side effect of what you can do if you link up your Google Plus profile with content in your own website. So the theory goes that that content will perform better in search results, and I think that's a really good example just there. Because it has the extra credibility. Google knows it's being written by a real person, and not maybe an SEO agency or something. But plus, there is a point of view that says that web users are more likely to actually click on that content with the picture next to it, just because it attracts their attention more in search results. So if you're in a really competitive market and you're already trying to appear on page one, but you're not getting much traffic, then this is a way, if you kind of switch what is appearing on page 1 to something like this, it could really help you push more traffic through, albeit into your blog, but it's still coming into your site. So that's our third tip, which is Google authorship. Now I'm going to go from something really cutting edge and really topical to something a bit old-fashioned actually for our next tip. Tip number 4, which is, I called it old-fashioned PR. So as I say, it might sound a little bit like we're going back in time, but there's a lot of SEO value that can be gained through getting what Google calls sort of authority or high credibility links. It's part of perhaps the backlash against several years' worth of SEO people spending a lot of time sort of spamming Google and trying to sort of push their sites higher. And as a reaction, Google's almost saying, okay, you know, one way to see if your website is credible, if your business is credible, is to see if the press are talking about you. So what this could be, these could be links appearing in stories about your business or website in online media, purely online media, such as reputable blogs or online magazines. But also you can try and make this work with the online versions of traditional offline press. So in your sector you might have trade magazines that everyone reads in your certain industry, and it's a physical printed magazine, but they may have an accompanying website that they publish their stories on as well. The same could be said of consumer magazines and even local press. Now I know a lot of us sort of look at local press and think, oh, is it really worth the effort? And there's always some people who are always being covered. But a lot of local press stories actually appear on their online versions as well. If it appears on the online version and the story is about your business, then it's quite legitimate to contact either the webmaster or journalist and say, hey, if you haven't done so already, would you mind adding a link to our website at the end of the story? Because it just adds value to your readers. If the story is about your business anyway, you're making life easier for their readers to just click a link and actually come and visit your website. And then bingo, you've got a really high value link, high credibility link to your site that will really count for SEO. So here's an example just to show you for one of our clients in the travel sector. And this is a story which we got placed on a Place in the Sun website. So obviously the TV series Place in the Sun is really well known. I think they have a magazine and an exhibition as well. And they have a website as well with guides and information and news. Now, you'd think this would be quite difficult to do, but actually for the online version, on the news section, the editor there is really open to stories and they're always looking for new content. So we've got a client who does French holiday rentals, and we work closely with them to identify. We did some research and put together this story. And if you can see at the top of the second paragraph here, it says a survey conducted by online letting specialists, French Connections. And the words French Connections actually are a hyperlink to the client's website. So we've got a really high value link there to the client's site just by doing some old-fashioned PR, contacting that publication and helping identify what sort of stories they want and putting that story together. So to reiterate, it's really worth that effort to build those relationships with some key media contacts, if it's in your trade, if you meet them at trade shows and things, or even just local press. Get some coverage about whatever it is that you're doing. And done it on the BBC News website. It's that simple to do. If you get lucky enough to get talked about on there as a story and your business name is mentioned, you can contact the BBC webmasters and they will add a link to your website. So it's all completely free of charge. It just takes a little bit of time to get organised, because with PR, that is the main investment. It's time in building those relationships and trying to come up with some of those ideas for stories. As well as the SEO value, obviously you're going to raise awareness of your business as well, and you are going to get some really great coverage and raise the profile of your brand. So like a lot of SEO techniques, you're doing things to try and get links to your site, but there's always a secondary benefit as well of actually these activities can drive traffic through and help build your brand profile. Okay, so that brings us on to talking about local media just at the end there. That brings us on to the last of our sort of the top 5 tips, as I say, which are all based on things techniques we're using now and which we are seeing are working really well right now, because obviously SEO changes very quickly. And our last tip is that if you're a locally focused business, because not everyone wants to sell across the UK or internationally, there's lots of businesses can use the internet to promote themselves locally, then there's lots of things you can do to boost your local SEO and to appear higher in localized search results. And this is a really big growth market in search, especially in the future, linked up with mobile search as well, where people are searching for things while they're out and about, and they're in a new location and they just want to search where is the best restaurant or best place to get a coffee in Maidstone, because that's where they are right now. So there's a lot of benefits that can be gained from doing well in local search results. One of the best things you can do to start off with is to sign up for your free listing with Google Places, which then means that you will appear on Google Maps when people are searching for things on there. And also you may have seen in search results, you often see results for a local sort of business where on the main Google search results they have what's used to be called the 7-pack. It will show 7 different businesses and the little pins next to them on a mini map next to them as well. And that data is all fed from ways, and I'm going to show you now this link to what I think is the best way to do it, which is to go to Google+, again our old friend Google+, go back there and create a page for your business, but when you do it, choose the option on top left there with the big red pin. Choose a local business or place rather than the other sorts of options that you see when you want to create a page for a business on Google+. What that will do is it gives you a form to add in all of your address data. They may send you a little postcard with a PIN number to verify that you are at that address, and you then go back and enter the PIN number. You've created your Google Plus business page, but also the data that's in Google Plus is then fed over to Google Maps, and you'll start to appear on there as well. Now, as I said before, there's a couple of ways of doing this. It is still possible to just go to Google Places, and if you just Google it and have a Google account, you can log in there, and you can create a listing for your business, again with the same verification process. But Google Places is kind of the old-fashioned way, and what we think is going to happen, and there's signs of this happening, is in future Google Places is going to be merged with Google Plus local business pages. Yet another attempt by Google to try and force everyone to go and use Google Plus, because at the moment it's a bit quiet over there, and they're looking at ways to try and shift a lot of their services to be delivered through Google Plus. So that's a really good tip. If you've got a local business at an address that you want to publicize, so obviously not maybe relevant for a home-based business if you don't want people knowing where you are, but if you've got some kind of retail or food-based business locally, then or service business, then it could be a really good free technique to use. Another free local SEO tip is just one I came across literally just the other day, is to go and sign up for a profile on something called bttradespace.com. Now, this is just a screenshot of the homepage of the site there, which should be coming onto your screens now. Basically, it's kind of like a big business directory, a bit like it's run by B, obviously. Don't be put off by the name TradeSpace. It's not only limited to tradespeople. Literally anyone can create a profile. We've done it for a couple of clients now, including ourselves. it takes about 5 minutes to do. You fill in your profile with all your address details, contact details, and a description. And it gives you a really good link back to your website, so make sure you fill that in. And we've seen that link cropping up when we analyze the links to client websites and which ones Google seems to favor the most. Then that seems to crop up quite a lot. So there's a really quick and easy tip for you to take away, and maybe we'll go away this afternoon and go and fill in your profiles. So the website address is bttradespace.com. And best of all, as with all the other tips and advice, it's completely free of charge to do. So, in summary, just to recap on some of the things we've just covered there, those are our 5 top tips, if you like, and obviously all of this will be available afterwards, I believe, for you to have a look at. 5 top tips of what we would suggest you could do free of charge to boost your SEO performance of your website. And it's all based on what is working right now in the current SEO climate, but obviously in a year's time it would be a completely different list. As I say, it's all completely free of charge. There's no sign-up fees on anything that we've suggested doing, no costs involved at all. But what you do have to weigh up, obviously, is the investment in time. And obviously time is limited for all of us, and you need to weigh that up and wonder whether, you know, which ones of those may be more relevant for your business. And while we're all together, I just want to, if you haven't heard of it already, I'm sure you're all already familiar, and hopefully all coming anyway, but next week, obviously, next Thursday, is the Digital Kent conference down here in sunny Folkestone, where we're based, just a few doors down from Quarter House venue, actually. It's an all-day event. We were obviously there last time at the first one in April, and even we picked up loads of great ideas, particularly for our social media work, just by being there. We'll be there running a workshop on how to sell more stuff online, which is basically all about how to get more visitors to your website. We'll be running a speed session after lunch, which I'm calling our Chamber of Horrors, which is our speed session of some of the worst SEO and digital mistakes that we commonly see, without naming any names. Obviously, if you can't make it along next week, then if you're not already on Twitter, it's worth taking a look at the hashtag digikent, which is up on screen now. Have a look on that and search for that on Twitter. Those of us involved with the event have been using it to an extent, but it would be great to see it used more. And what we'd even be happy to do is, if you've got questions, ask them on Twitter and just put hashtag digikent, any questions about SEO or digital, and either one of our team or one of the other supporters of the Digital Kent conference, like Live and Social or Sleeping Giant Media, I'm sure, guys, someone will pick it up. You might get several replies, a mixture of knowledge in answer to your question. And finally, just a little plug for our own website, which is webscapeseo.com. On there you can find all the links to our own social media channels and to links to my personal social media profiles if you want to connect with me. And also we've got our blog, which has posts on digital marketing and SEO. So I just want to check now if there were any questions. Yeah, I've got a couple of questions here, which I'm just going to answer quickly, and then also I've got as a backup, a couple of common questions we get asked. But while I'm going through these, if anyone else wants to type any questions into the question pane, now is a great time to do it, and we can run through those quickly now. That says, are all our techniques white hat? Now, if you don't know what that means, let me just explain for everyone's benefit. In the world of SEO, there's two approaches to doing it, the ethical one and the unethical one. The ethical one is called white hat SEO, and the unethical one is called black hat SEO. It's an American reference to old-fashioned cowboy films where the good is always wore white hat and the bad is always wore black hat. In fact, there is a blog post on our blog explaining all the origins of the terms in more detail. Most SEO that's done is white hat, but some is black hat, done by people. What you tend to find with black hat techniques is that they get a very quick result, but the result is not sustainable, and you end up with your website maybe after 6 weeks getting banned from Google or penalized or blacklisted. In answer to your question, every technique that I've run through there is absolutely 100% white hat. You've got absolutely nothing to worry about. If anything, they're whiter than white, because some of the things like old-fashioned PR, that really is just raising your profile, but just ensuring that you are getting the links. None of the techniques we've just run through manipulate SEO in any way. So yeah, in answer to that question, they're all completely safe to use. I mean, just to make the comparison, things like black hat techniques, they're really heavily used by payday loan websites at the moment. And if you search for payday loans on Google and then search again 2 days later, you'll see a completely different list of companies appearing, and that's because there's a huge churn, a turnover of websites appearing all the time, which are using black hat and then getting banned. Let's just check through the other questions. So hopefully that's answered that one. If you just bear with me a moment. Okay, it's a really good one here. What is a Google Penguin? That's okay, so this refers to over the last, as I said at the start, there's been a lot of changes to SEO in the last couple of years. Google never used to announce when it was making changes to how it worked, its algorithm. But in the last couple of years, they've liked to bundle up all the changes and release a big fanfare and give them all a name. It first happened with a release called Google Panda, which got the most sort of profile, and that was named after one of their developers who'd been leading that project, whose last name was Panda. And then it kind of has started a trend for animals that begin with P for their subsequent releases. So then Google Penguin was a later change to the Google algorithm, and that's which involved a whole set. The two changes together, they together looked at tightening up the rules on what you put on your website, and the other release tightened up the rules on how you do your backlink. Really good question here. Is the title tag still a good way to get traffic? Again, for those of you that don't know, the title tag isn't like the main title on a web page, but it's actually the bit of text that appears in the top of your browser window. So when you've got a different tab open, maybe in Chrome, and you just hover up to the top, there's a little title for that page that appears in the tab sort of section there. That's called, more accurately, probably the meta title, and is buried within the code of the website. And in answer to Chris's question, it is still really important. And for optimizing your website, when Google comes to look at your web page and wants to know what it's about, the title tag is one of the first places it's going to look. There's a whole, you could do a whole webinar just on writing a good title tag, actually, but a couple of really quick tips. And in answer to one of the other questions, this is all still being recorded, so you can catch up with the answers later. But a couple of quick tips for writing good title tags. Don't do what you see on a lot of sites. It's just say, welcome to our website on every page. The title tag needs to be uniquely written for every page in your website. And it needs to say very descriptively what that page is about without stuffing it full of keywords and being really spammy about it. The title tag also, you try and limit it to about 60-65 characters. Anything beyond that, generally Google's probably going to ignore. And another good little tip is we tend to put the most important words first in the title tag, because I personally feel Google thinks that they have a bit more priority. So complete and unique title tags written across your whole website is a fundamental, it's a real basic of SEO. Okay, so that answers that one. Another really good question here, is it good practice to ping changes to your web pages? Now, I think if I understand that correctly, what we're talking about here is if we've updated content in a website, is it a good idea to let the search engines know about it? Definitely yes. And one of the easiest ways you can do that, it's a little bit technical, but it is still pretty easy, is to have a sitemap file for your website. And I don't mean the sitemap that the public will see, but there's something called an XML sitemap. And if you Google it, there's loads of free tools that will build you one for you for your website, or speak to your developer. It's something really easy to add on. And it's like it's a text file that lists all the pages in your website. And what you can do is create an account with Google Webmaster Tools, and every time you change something in your website, then you update your sitemap, and if you've got a plugin or a tool to do it, it's literally one click, and that rebuilds the sitemap for all the latest stuff in your website, and then resubmit that to Google. So you can hope that Google would come find this anyway over a period of time. But how often Google indexes your website could be variable depending on how often you keep it up to date. So that's another good tip. The more often you update your website, the more often Google will visit it and index it. So yeah, the short answer, it is a good practice. Rebuild the sitemap, resubmit it if there's major changes to your website. Another quick little thing you can do is, if let's say your new content in your site is just a new blog post, then go and talk about it on social media. It's a really good thing to share on social. Say, hey, look, go and read our new blog post on this subject. Share it several times across several different channels. That will get sort of shared amongst social media, and then that will also flag up to Google. There's something new on your website, and it will come to have a look and check it out. Couple more ideas. Good idea to install Google Analytics on a website. Okay, so yeah, this was something I was going to finish up with actually, with the best sort of free tools. Google Analytics, if you don't have it already, is a free tool from Google where you add some code into each page of your website and you get a free visitor statistics package. A lot of people use it now. Most sites, to be honest, are familiar with it. Yes, always worth. This is still the best free service that there is out there. I would add, just in the last week or so, there has been quite an annoying change in analytics where they have stopped showing you the search terms people use to find and visit your website from Google search engines, which is really annoying. And again, it's another example of Google trying to force us all to use AdWords instead of doing SEO. But you can still get some ideas of what phrases you are ranking for and which ones are sending visits if you install Google Webmaster Tools. So that is an alternative for finding out that specific piece of information. Okay, let me just check through the other questions. We've covered the white hat one. Oh, someone mentioned about YouTube, question mark. Yeah, I didn't mention it specifically, but on the earlier slide where we're talking about making sure you've got your social profiles all created, YouTube can be a really important part of that, especially as, and it's no big surprise based on everything we've said about Google+, Google has given a new way to hook up and link together your YouTube channel and your Google Plus profile. And it's really worth doing that. Again, it's a bit fiddly, but it's worth persevering and making it work. We have a lot of people say to us, but we haven't got any videos to upload on YouTube. There's a lot you can do to try and create videos. I know people who've contacted, for example, students coming out of college to say, do you want to come and make us a video for free or cheap to add for your portfolio. You can even do things like this webinar I'm doing. And if you've got a headset and a mic, you can talk over your PowerPoint slides, turn that into a video. You could make a slideshow of photos, and turn that into a video just in that really basic software that comes with every install of Windows. You can I think Windows Movie Maker or something it's called, you can do that and make a slideshow of pictures add a bit of music on maybe, and then you've got a video. But it's definitely having a presence on YouTube is definitely worth it for SEO. And also don't forget that YouTube is apparently the second biggest search engine after Google. So people will often go on YouTube and search for how to do something. If that's something you can tap into with your product or service, then you should be really having videos on YouTube to help give that information and promote yourself. That links back to another question that was just asked, which I mentioned earlier about a plugin on your website, and someone's asked, what is a plugin? Really, I'm referring, a lot of websites these days are built using WordPress, the free sort of blogging software, which you can install on your website for nothing, customize it with different designs. You can pay to get a bespoke design built if you want. But WordPress, if it's configured correctly, can work really well for SEO. And one of the advantages is it comes with literally thousands of plugins you can add to do anything that you might want on your website. And one of the plugins you can do, in fact there's several, will build an XML sitemap as I was talking about earlier. And you can just go into the plugin settings and click rebuild sitemap. So plugin specifically is an add-on primarily for WordPress websites to build your website that you might want to sort of add a little functionality onto. Okay, so hopefully, they're all really good questions actually, thank you for those. Hopefully I've answered all of them. There's only literally just a couple of minutes left on the webinar, so that's just whizzed by. So the only other thing was just on our list of prepared questions, I was just going to, we had one that we get asked a lot of, how long do results take to take effect on SEO? And just to cover that quickly, if a phrase already ranks, then you can maybe get it improved in 2 to 6 or 8 weeks, possibly by doing SEO. If your website doesn't rank for your target search term, it can take longer, and most SEO companies will probably try and cover themselves if they speak to you and say they need 6 months to really get results. So that was just one last thing I just wanted to cover. So if there's no other, one last question has just come in. Are keywords used by Bing? I will just really answer this quickly. To be honest, in most SEO circles, people will just focus on doing what we need to do to get ranked on Google, because in the UK, Google's got something like 89.2% of market share. So that's normally enough for most people, and the techniques that you apply for SEO on Google will generally work for Bing as well. So, you know, there's no problem there. Sometimes we do look much more closely at Bing if there's a market that's so competitive on Google that it's going to be nigh on impossible to get ranked on Google, but the traffic is really high value still, and even then it's worth spending time to get a good ranking on Bing or Yahoo. Even though there's a lot less traffic, it might be a bit easier than trying to get ranked on Google. Generally speaking though, Google's the big one. That's what we generally focus on all the time. So that really is the last one now. So that just leaves me to thank you all for taking part and for listening. I hope you found it useful. If you can make it along to the conference next Thursday, do come along, say hello, come and say hi. Give me some feedback on how the webinar was. And if you can't make it along, then as I say, make sure you're following on social media. Use the digikent link and you'll be able to access all the information from that. So thank you very much.